à-bas-le-ciel.
As YouTubers or people with the platform, some of the things that we put out there are entertainment. Some of them I think are really important messages. And this is going to be one of those important messages that I feel. You know, I kind of step back and I'm like, why do we as human beings want to push our thoughts and our agendas on other people so much that we feel like we need to be in their face, debating, arguing, fighting, protesting? We need to do all this shit to get our point across because we're right. You know, vegans are the same way.
I think the two mistakes that Jerry makes here is, first of all, thinking that we do this because we're right. And secondly, that we do this just to try to bring other people over to our side.
If you're pushing something, you are trying to forcefully change someone's mind, which is not going to work in the first place. And human nature, when you're being pushed to do something, is to fight back in the opposite direction.
All the time as vegans, we're dealing with people who have never heard of veganism and who don't appreciate that it's an ethical issue. All the time we deal with people who respond to veganism as if it's just equivalent to, I don't like salty food, I'm trying to cut down on salt. And people who will serve you a dish that has little bits of meat in it and will say, oh, well, come on, what are you complaining about? It's just a little bit of meat, right? So I realize that outsiders will perceive what we're doing as preaching when we're just trying to get across that minimal point of staking out our territory, so to speak, of saying, look, you may completely disagree with me. This may be completely alien to you, but this is who I am. This is why it matters so much to me. These are the rules I live by. And now you and I have to live together as co-workers, as colleagues, as friends, as family members, whatever the case may be. You know, human beings have both social and antisocial instincts. When we communicate with others, we're not always looking for their approval. We're not always looking to convert them. In the workplace, I talk about being vegan openly. I really think in the same sense that someone who's homosexual is prone to talking about homosexuality openly. It's not with the expectation that they're going to have love affairs with their coworkers. Let's say it's a homosexual person who's already married or in a steady relationship, whatever. It's not because they're going to convince them, if they're homophobic, that being gay is a good thing. And it's definitely not that they're going to convert straight people to being gay, right? But you're open about it. And I think you probably want to espouse a certain kind of self-confidence because you're really staking out your territory at the office. You're probably not doing it to make people like you or to express how much you've got in common. You may just be expressing to other people in what way you're alien from them. And a large part of human cooperation doesn't rely on agreement. It instead relies on a certain kind of healthy recognition of the ways in which we're alien from one another, and then working around and beyond that with some level of respect. Respect is too strong a word. Mutual recognition.
You know, vegans are the same way. I get the fact that they feel very strongly about not hurting animals, eating animals, all that stuff. I get the fact, I get that. And you can sit there and talk to people and they'll be like, oh my God, I agree with you so much. And as soon as they go home, they eat a hamburger, you don't even know about it. You know what I mean? Like they need to be on a journey for themselves. Like
2 points here. One, why do you assume that I'm going to talk about veganism, or in some sense preach veganism, in order to convert somebody else? Let's say it's a pretty girl I have a crush on, and she's not vegan. Don't I just have to communicate to her, this is who I really am? This is who I am. I want you to know who I am and why I am this way, what motivates me. And that girl's going to respond to it and take it in whatever direction. Right? Now, a lot of people may perceive that as preaching, whether it's a girl you're flirting with, or it's a coworker at the office, or it's your relatives at home. Vegans, we all have this experience, even if you're just talking about this is who I am, this is how I live, this is why it matters to me. If I'm just talking about myself, where other people are going to respond to that as preaching, it may be alienating for others. I may not be building on common ground with you. I may be showing you this is where our common ground stops. But that's tremendously important for us. And again, I think it's in the same way as someone who's homosexual. Not to everybody. I mean, if you're gay, you go to the bakery, you don't have to tell the baker that you're homosexual. If you're vegan, you go to the same bakery regularly. Actually, you do have to tell them that you're vegan again and again and again. So as a vegan, it comes up a lot more often. But a lot of the time, I mean, just think about that, Jerry. Whether it's in the schoolyard, a kid who's vegan, who doesn't want to get bullied. It's in the workplace, you don't want to get disrespected. Or it's in the first flirtation with somebody you want to start up a relationship with. There are actually a lot of reasons here, not related to trying to convert people, not related to trying to convince people, for why we have to stake out our claims again and again and say, this is who I am. This is why I am this way. This is why it matters to me so much.
Now, why a vegan would push veganism so much on people that don't want anything to do with it, you know, their minds are made up, they don't want it, is beyond me.
Fundamentally, it's because I have to eat at the same table with you. I never tried to convert, like my own grandmother, to veganism. But you have to sympathize, Jerry, the level of conviction I would have to get across for my own grandmother just to tolerate me at the dinner table, for her not to try to force me to eat meat, and for me to have coworkers that don't try to denigrate me, ridicule me, push me around, trick me by serving me meat. Like, that stuff all vegans have dealt with. I mean, something like a brother or sister, someone of the same generation, and it's not harmless ribbing to us. Even if it's just literally trying to get through a wedding or a funeral or trying to get along with your coworkers, that's actually a huge challenge for us, where the objective of those discussions is not even to make friends. It's not to get you to agree with me. It's not to get you to see how much we have in common. It's not to convince you to become vegan. It's just to try to set up the basis for a minimal level of cohabitation. Because we as vegans have to live in a world that is made by and for meat eaters. It's a world that shows us very little or very grudging respect. And actually, day after day, in intimate relationships and in interactions with strangers, it shows us a hell of a lot of disrespect.
We're talking about vegans. You know, vegans can be out there and really put their case out, and you understand it and you can get it and you fully comprehend it, and behind closed doors, they still eat meat. You know, they'll look to their face and be like, yeah, I totally understand, and behind closed doors, they still eat meat.
Right. But what they learned was not about veganism. What they learned was about me. They learned who I am. And that conversation is going to inform and enrich our relationship. Hopefully it sets up a situation where my workplace is not toxic, where my schoolyard is not a place where I'm being bullied, where my professor is not disrespecting me. And I know, Jerry, it may be hard for you to imagine this stuff, but as vegans, we tolerate all those scenarios.
You're not converting anyone who fucking doesn't want to eat meat. You're not. I mean, who wants to eat meat. You're not. The people that you do, oh, we saved them and they don't eat meat now. They were already on that journey by themselves, seeking the information to make a change on their own, and you helped guide them in that direction.
Even if I agreed with this philosophy, how could it change my behavior? What are the stakes here? What are the consequences? If I can only know who was on this mysterious journey after the fact, looking back at what happened, then I'm just going to have to do my best to deal with everybody fairly. I can't even say equally, but fairly on some other basis, because it's impossible for me to know when I meet them, when we have these conversations, who is on a journey and who is not.
You can do that by just putting up a website and not fucking getting in someone's face at the supermarket or protesting or fucking being pushy every time that you fucking come in contact with someone because you feel like they shouldn't eat meat. But the only way change happens is when someone is looking and wants to create it for themselves, within themselves. You can't push it on them.
I think that really is the perspective of a personal trainer who, after years of experience, has just come to this point of saying, hey, if somebody's not motivated, there's no point in trying to motivate them. And there's a very different political perspective if you instead see this in terms of respect, in terms of staking out your territory. Why would a gay person try to push gay rights on their own grandparents? Because they don't want to be disrespected and denigrated and humiliated. every time they go to Christmas dinner. All right? That's really being pushy. You got grandparents maybe who are kind of homophobic or traditional Christians or traditional Muslims, and where every time you deal with them, you're not waiting for them to be on a journey. You're not waiting for them to have this ineffable, interior spark of genius or light or hope or whatever it is. Nope. You got to show up and argue your point. You got to be pushy. You got to be demanding. You got to stake your claim. You got to say, this is who I am. This is what it matters to me. And this is the bare minimum standard you need to live up to. Otherwise, I can't work with you. And it happens at the office. It happens in the schoolyard. It happens in the university. It's in so many different places that we as vegans, in making an ethical claim, actually do have to fight for our right to sit at that same table. I know it's hard for outsiders to relate to. I know it's hard for you to understand. And I know it's very unsympathetic because we chose this, right? Most people who were born Muslim and have to go around explaining Muslim dietary rules didn't choose to become Muslim. They were just born into the religion. And now they got these crazy rules about what they can and cannot eat that are based on a religion many centuries old, magical thinking and nothing else. So there's a kind of sympathy there from the general public. And we as vegans don't get this sympathy. Instead, what we fundamentally deal with again and again is a hostile attitude of, why are you being pushy? But Jerry, what I invite you to imagine is, maybe I'm not trying to educate you about veganism. Maybe I'm not trying to convert you to veganism, not even if you perceive it that way. Maybe what I'm really trying to communicate to you is who I am and what we don't have in common. And I'm asking you to respect that and respect my boundaries. The same way that a gay person, maybe in the end, he just can't go to Christmas dinner at all, right? But if we're going to share the same table as coworkers, as family, as friends, whatever the case may be, yeah, this is the kind of challenge to the status quo where we have to stake our claim. We have to say who we are and why we are this way. We let you know the rules that we play by. And if you can't respect those rules, you ain't going to see us around no more.
À-bas-le-ciel.